Seasoned motorcyclists know that the Suzuki brand name used to mean something. It meant exciting bikes, it meant racing heritage, and it evoked images of some of the most trend-setting motorcycles ever made, like the K5 Gixxer, the SB650, and of course, the coveted Hayabusa. But somewhere along the way, Suzuki just stopped caring. They peaked in 2005, in our opinion, and ever since then, it's been a downward spiral of recycled engines, bold new graphics, and complete withdrawal from the racing world stage. The downfall of Suzuki is not just sad, it's historic. They've been phoning it in for the last 2 decades, and we gotta talk about it. Let's roll the clock back in time to the glory days of the early aughts. A wondrous landscape decorated with the cultural landmarks of the time. Nu Metal, South Park, the X Games, the Bush administration, it was all there front and center. I lived it was a fun time. Amidst this backdrop, Suzuki was living their best life. They were unapologetically on fire, making some of the most iconic, best performing, and best selling bikes the world had ever seen. If you were into motorcycles in the early 2000s, odds are a Suzuki was either in your garage or on a list of dream bikes, or maybe it was a desktop image on your Dell home computer running Windows XP. Better days. I mean, for God's sake, they had the frickin' K5 Gixxer Thou. It wasn't just a great superbike, it was a legendary machine. It had a perfectly balanced chassis, usable torque, and a motor so good it became the gold standard. Do you know how good it was? When BMW designed the first generation S1000RR, they literally based their engine layout around the K5. That's why you may hear an S1000RR lovingly referred to as the German Gixxer by those in the know. The K5 was the pinnacle of the GSX-R platform, and Suzuki would maintain that engine design across many different platforms up through the modern era. Then there was the SB650. By 2005, it had already cemented its status as the ultimate do-everything motorcycle. Track days, commuting, anything in between, an SB650 could do no wrong. It could be a beginner bike too, having been awarded the title of one of the best, most well-rounded beginner bikes here on the Yamanoob channel for the better part of the last 10 years. It was essentially Suzuki's version of the Ducati Monster. It had a 645cc V-twin that was approachable, fun, and characterful. It had minimal bodywork and an exposed trellis frame. It was a pioneer of the naked bike category, which had yet to be invented. Sporty and fun, yet comfortable for daily use, plus it beat out the Monster in terms of its affordability, reliability, and dealer network. The SB650 became a darling of the motorcycle industry. It became canon. It steeped itself in motorcycling lore. It was such a gem that Suzuki produced it for 25 years, never straying too far from the original concept that led to its success. The DRZ 400 SM also launched in 2005, which was basically the only street-legal supermoto you could buy brand new. Based on their existing DRZ 400 platform, it was lightweight, fun, and a unique addition to the Japanese motorcycle market. Supermotos were basically a specialized European novelty, and Suzuki took a risk by creating a factory model that any rider could buy and then just wheelie right off of the dealership parking lot. It was reliable enough to be used and abused, and dumb enough to make every rider feel like they were more extreme than they had any right to be. Despite the ebb and flow of supermotos in popular culture, Suzuki held steadfast and produced this bike, again unchanged, for another 20 years. And then of course, there's the Hayabusa, the legend, the meme machine, the wet dream of highway roll racing around the world. It had already established itself as the fastest production motorcycle in the world in 1999. By the mid-2000s, it wasn't just a performance icon, it was a cultural icon too. The Busa was in movies, music videos, rap lyrics, and the garage of every DJ and street squid with a pulse. Open-class superbikes have come and gone in the last 2 decades, but the Busa has held steadfast. its kanji still proudly displayed on the side of its grotesque bodywork. And for those who don't know, grotesque was the term specifically used in the Hayabusa's design brief to describe its silhouette. And the crazy part is all of those bikes were in production at the same time. The K5 Gixxer, the Busa, the SV650, the DRZ, they were all in the same showroom, proving to the rest of the big four that Suzuki meant business. But how did they get there? How did we get legendary bikes like the K5 Gixxer, Hayabusa, DRZ 400, and SV650 all in just a span of a few years from a company that now releases one new engine design in 2 decades? That kind of winning streak doesn't happen by accident. To understand it, you have to go back to the 1990s, when Suzuki had a culture of risk-taking, engineering bravado, and a serious commitment to racing and performance. In the early 90s, Suzuki was still an underdog compared to Honda and Yamaha, but they were hungry. They were deeply embedded in road racing and the world of World Superbike, MotoGP, and endurance events. It was clear that racing was influencing their street bikes in a real way. The company didn't just want to sell bikes, they wanted to win, and they used racing as their R&D department. This was the decade where Suzuki engineers were given serious freedom to experiment and push boundaries. The Hayabusa didn't just break land speed records, it broke the rules. It would design in a wind-tunneled, adorned, and horrendously bulbous yet purposeful aerodynamic bodywork, and the engineers didn't care what you thought. It was built to be the fastest motorcycle in the world, a pure and simple mission. And because of that deliberate intent, the risk paid off. When it came to the SV650, they defied the standard bike formula and eschewed the detuned inline 4 in favor of a rowdy V-twin. It felt European and exotic by comparison, but it was still sold at an incredibly value-driven price. And as I mentioned, Suzuki was the first Japanese manufacturer to sell a factory supermoto. While it was a simple gap to bridge from their existing DRZ 400S, it still showed that they were willing to put it all on the table for the sake of selling exciting motorcycles. By the time we got to the mid-2000s, that strategy hit critical mass. The K5 Gixxer Thao was a masterpiece, the spiritual successor to the Gixxer legacy that began in 1985, and it cemented Suzuki's reputation as a serious performance brand. This was Suzuki at their absolute best. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It was a dynasty that defined an era. Their lineup was what you could call a dream blunt rotation, if you will. It may have felt like they were only getting started, but they weren't. Instead, right after this golden age, it was like someone at Suzuki flipped a switch and said, "Okay boys, that's it, we did it. Pack it up, let's get out of here." And then the momentum slowed as quickly as a Turbo Hayabusa when the engine grenades under 15 pounds of boost. That kind of culture doesn't last forever. What goes up must come down. Risk-taking comes with high costs, and eventually the world changed. The 2008 financial crash hit.
We, of course, love Rockform for their rock-solid phone cases and motorcycle handlebar mounts, but they keep adding more and more new accessories that allow you to capitalize and expand on your existing setup. With a Rockform phone case in hand, you can attach it to a mount on your bike, on the dash of your car, and now even on a camera tripod. As more and more people get into motorcycle content creation, the Rockform tripod mount is a super convenient piece of kit. The 1/4-inch threads attached to any standard camera tripod, and the magnetic phone attachment allows you to super quickly attach your phone to get the perfect shot. The base of the mount is magnetic as well, so you can quickly slap the mount onto a metal surface, snap your phone onto the other side, and set up a shot without even having to use a tripod. Rockform has an astounding track record for high build quality and rugged durability, and this mount is no different. With a super strong magnet, especially paired with a Rockform case, you know your phone isn't going to budge. Rockform's been a long-time Yaminu partner, and their support is invaluable. If you enjoy your existing Rockform products and have an interest in using your phone for photography or video, click the link below and check out the tripod mount. Yaminu viewers get 25% discount as well if you use the code YN25. So hit that link in the description, use that code YN25 for 25% off. Thanks so much to Rockform for the support. Now let's get back to the show.
If you want to understand how Suzuki fell so far behind, you don't have to look too much further than one phrase that's become a meme in the motorcycling world: bold new graphics. This phrase is infamous because for over a decade, that's been Suzuki's business strategy. Instead of innovating, evolving, or even slightly modernizing their lineup, Suzuki literally just changes the colors, maybe tweaks the plastics, and ships the same bike with a new model year stamp. It's unfair to say that this is just from laziness or complacency. The reason Suzuki hit the brakes on development starts with the '08 financial crash. The global economy tanked, motorcycle sales plummeted, and dealerships closed. Many people would say they've never recovered. And Suzuki, producing much fewer motorcycles than companies like Honda, had to stay conservative. They dramatically slashed R&D spending, they paused most new products, and they doubled down on the platforms that they already had. That kind of made sense in the short term if you're trying to survive an economic collapse. Throwing millions of dollars into new engine platforms probably isn't the wisest move. But while Suzuki hit the brakes, everyone else kept going. Between '08 and 2015, while Suzuki was still living in 2005, Yamaha went back to the drawing board. They launched the FZ09 in 2014 with a brand new CP3 inline triple that completely changed the middleweight naked segment. They also launched the FZ07 as an affordable light torquey parallel twin that quickly became an industry staple and set the tone for the next 10 years. They even got a head start on the middleweight ADV segment with the Tenere 700, which also took advantage of the lovable CP2 platform. Meanwhile, Suzuki was still selling the same old Gixxer 750 that saw the most noteworthy update in 2006. Same engine, chassis, dash, and cable throttle. Oh yeah, they're still selling this bike in 2025. Over 20 years since the 750cc class vanished from racing circuits. They're not the only ones who got hit by the recession, but they are the ones who responded with a decade of creative hibernation. Every other manufacturer, Honda, Yamaha, Triumph, Ducati, and even KTM used that time to innovate. Meanwhile, Suzuki used it to rename the SV650 the Gladius. Not every motorcycle needs a brand new engine every year, but to run a platform for 20 years is insane. If Harley can discontinue the Evo Sportster in favor of the liquid-cooled RevMax engine, Suzuki has no excuse. Suzuki's idea of product development for a decade was basically to change the colors, change the stickers, call it a day. Meanwhile, every other manufacturer is making new engines, new frames, entirely new bikes. KTM put launch control on the Duke 390. Why does a DRZ still have a 5-speed gearbox? The most brutal part is that the strategy kind of worked. For a while anyway. Suzuki figured out that they could survive by playing it safe, keeping costs low, reusing proven platforms, and catering to buyers who just wanted cheap, reliable bikes without the frills, which is why they've sort of been considered the Walmart of motorcycles. They didn't need to innovate because for a while the competition wasn't fighting over budget-conscious buyers. Despite being outdated, people still bought them. Suzuki has sold countless DRZs, SV650s, Hayabusas, and for some reason people are still out here buying current model year Gixxer 750s. But things have changed, and now every manufacturer is going after the cost-conscious rider. Disposable income doesn't really exist for a lot of people anymore. And for most people, motorcycles are just toys. So if every manufacturer wants to keep selling bikes, they have to keep this in mind. More and more companies are making fun, modern, practical motorcycles that are super value-driven and affordable to own, and Suzuki no longer has that niche cornered by selling cheap but outdated bikes. Suzuki has designed exactly one entirely new motorcycle engine in the last 20 years. One. The 776cc parallel twin found in the GSX 8S, 8R, and V-Strom 800. And as the middleweight twin segment explodes with value-driven and cost-conscious motorcycles, Suzuki was at least right to put their energy in that direction. It's a fun engine for sure. It's torquey, linear, and versatile in multiple applications, which is the smart move in today's market, and one that most manufacturers have adopted. Make a fun, compact, cost-effective engine and stick it into as many bikes as possible. And that's exactly what Suzuki's doing. They're milking this engine for all it's worth. Not only do we have the 8S, 8R, and 3 different V-Strom models, they've also debuted the new 8T and 8TT bikes, which are a little overhyped if you ask me. All of these bikes use the same engine, the same frame, and same electronics. They're all just wearing different costumes to an anime convention. The 8TT actually brings me to our next point. why does Suzuki get graded on a curve? Despite everything I've presented thus far in this video, Suzuki is always seeming to get a pass when it comes to feedback from riders or reviewers. When the 8TT was announced, everyone applauded and cheered and praised at how new and exciting and beautifully designed it was. Guys, Yamaha released the XSR 700 nearly 10 years ago. The modern retro naked bike is not a new concept. And I can't help but think the new 8T looks like a speed twin made by CF Moto. Sorry, I'm just calling it like I see it. So what's everyone so excited about? The fact that Suzuki finally made a new bike that isn't that new or interesting, or that it costs $2,000 more than the GSX 8S with which it shares all the core components sans a new gas tank? Motorcycles from Suzuki are lauded for being simple or reliable or affordable, which may all be true. But first and foremost, they're mostly old and outdated. The bikes that are revered were for products that were from nearly 20 years ago. If any other company sold such ancient machines brand new, they would be criticized, but the Suzuki fandom remains strong. It's like when a kid gives you a picture that they drew that by all metrics of artistic critique is terrible, but you give them a gold star and hang it on the fridge anyways. Suzuki is not a child with a box of crayons, though. They're a global automotive brand. So what's with the double standard? Isn't the whole gag about Harley-Davidson yesterday's technology at tomorrow's prices? Kinda sounds like Suzuki if you ask me. In 2020, Suzuki won the MotoGP World Championship with Joan Mir. I know, it sounds like a long time ago and I can scarcely believe it happened. It was a sign that Suzuki had some fight left in it. It was a weird championship, I'll give you that, but it was still cool. Then in 2022, they quit MotoGP. They just dipped out like a deadbeat dad who stepped out to buy a pack of smokes. And racing still matters in the motorcycle industry. Beyond marketing, it drives R&D, it legitimizes the brand, and keeps the engineering sharp. But it also costs money, like a lot of money to run a factory racing program. But still, Honda and Yamaha show up to MotoGP to race alongside Ducati, KTM, and Aprilia. They get their asses handed to them nowadays, but they're still doing it. Kawasaki's got a super strong presence in World Superbike. Suzuki tapped out just 2 years after winning the championship, citing the need to allocate resources due to changing market conditions and a desire to focus on sustainability initiatives. It is likely no coincidence that this happened amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, another uncertain global event much like the 2008 recession. But unlike in 2008, the motorcycle industry actually saw a nice bump during the 2020s as people pursued new outdoor activities with a pocket full of Biden's stimmy checks. Although now 5 years later, the threat of economic downturn is still looming and having an impact on the future of the motorcycle market. Maybe that's what's causing Suzuki to double down on the conservative strategy they've implemented over the last 2 decades. So what happens next? Suzuki still remains as sort of the budget brand, although I definitely trust Suzuki's build quality more than I would a torque wrench from Harbor Freight. They're not racing, they're not innovating, and they're not doing a whole lot that makes anybody that excited about their bikes. The GSX 8 series is a step in the right direction, and if they apply that aptitude to other bikes. But with no racing program, no R&D budget, and no real vision, it's hard to be optimistic. Suzuki went from building amazing, industry-leading motorcycles to being a living fossil of a motorcycle company. Their bikes are not bad by any means, but they feel so out of touch in comparison to the industry-wide strides everyone else is making. But what do you guys think? Is Suzuki dead in the water, or is there still a faint pulse that just needs a bit of a jump start? Let me know how you feel about Suzuki down in the comments. I love seeing the discussion that pops up in the comments section down below. Thanks so much for checking out today's video. I truly do appreciate it. I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later. And we're still here. So if you want to check out the next video, it's right over here. Thanks for watching, folks. Bye-bye.